Hey guys, Joe here. A couple requests to do an update on the Spider. So it's been a few weeks, probably three and a half weeks since we got it back from the paint shop. It was in the paint shop for 7 weeks, and we only had it in our possession for about 2 weeks before we sent it in. So a couple people asked for an update, so let's do an update. So as you can see, it is red. We went with a brighter shade of red, and in fact, the red is the current Alfa Romeo Giulia Quattrofolio paint code red. So if you see a brand new 2018-2019 Quattrofolio in red, that's what this shade of red is. So if anyone asks, that's what it is. Repainted the bumpers front and back as well. Every panel was straightened. All the dents and nicks and paint chips and door dings, everything's been taken out, repainted. Of course, we swapped out the mirrors, the factory 80s, box mirrors, for these vintage style chrome round mirrors. We've also done the chrome wiper blades and wiper arms. Again, we were trying to go that vintage look. Interior wise, if you watch the first video and then compare it to this one, first thing you'll notice is the seats are much cleaner and nicer in this video. The passenger seat didn't need a lot of love, but the driver's seat needed quite a bit of love. And that came, this seam was actually torn all the way around, about halfway down on each side, and this was all torn away. My wife actually, she hand sewn this back together, sewn the piping and the seam all back together by hand. And then I used a product from a horse tack shop for softening saddle leather, horse saddles, and I used it on the leather on this, and it worked really well, actually. It was a $20, it was in an orange jug. I don't have it here. I lent it to my dad so he could use it on one of his cars to soften up the leather, but worked really well. And then otherwise, just putting some dye. This needed some dye, and that got dyed and then got softened with the wax, and everything is really soft to the touch and nice, and it's worked out real well so far. I was thinking about repaneling this, but a lot of people said the patina on this car, or the patina on the leather, is great, and don't replace it. Just keep it as long as possible because the patina is just really nice. So I'm going to go that route. I'll hold on to it as long as I can. And then, of course, we replaced the factory vinyl brown shift boot, or not shift boot, e-brake boot with this black unit. The center console was brown. Now it's black. I dyed the vinyl, or sprayed the vinyl black, as well as the top of the door cards on each side. Those are now black. Swapped out the brown leather shift boot for a black leather shift boot. And then replaced the mahogany shift knob with the little vintage style black press on. And I prefer this knob for a couple reasons. I like the way it feels in the hand, number one. And number two, maybe the only thing about a Spider I've ever had an issue with is the shifter location. I've always, you're used to it being here, not up there. So that's the only thing. It's always been a little weird to me. So anything I can do to kind of make the shifter blend in with the rest of the dash, I'm happy to do so, but I'm much happier with this setup. And actually my wife, she used the brown leather shift boot. She cut it up and used it for, she actually reinforced the seams when she sewed this back together by hand. So that shift boot actually did serve a purpose in the end. It got recycled. And then in the future, probably soon, I'm going to replace those gauge bezels with the chrome units. Again, going for a vintage look. The tachometer is now back and working. That was off. I believe in the first video that was off. I had sent it to Seattle Speedometer, and we finally got it back. I think 2 days before the car was done being painted, we got the tach back. We all thought it was going to be a quick job, but actually the electronics in there were kind of a bear to get a hold of. And he needed to order, actually, I think he said 6 sets of electronics that were all new old stock, NOS factory electronics for these gauges. He ordered 6, 1 set worked. So there you go. These tachs have just got an electronical issue all by themselves. but he had to order 6 sets of components to get one set that would actually work. So take from that what you will. But it is working now. It works great. It's perfect. Love it. Internally or interior wise, the only other thing we've done is, and this might not even count as interior, but got a secondhand top for the convertible. And I think the black versus the factory brown looks much better against the red. LFC 6 times. And then coming around the back, you know, it's you know, we haven't changed anything dramatically. And like I said, I'm just going for kind of a vintage look. You know, it's an 80s car, but I wanted to give it that 60s feel. Anyone out there, if you have one of these reflectors, this is the driver's side USA. It would be passenger side in the British, in the UK. But this taillight unit is perfect, other than this reflector came off. So if anyone has just one of these reflectors, please let me know, because I do not want to spend $300 or $400 to replace a perfectly good taillight unit to have what is probably a $5 reflector. And then coming around the other side, pretty standard fare. Yesterday I had the front wheels off. The front wheels will get a repaint. They are in need of some paint, so the wheels will get taken off, refurbished, repainted. That'll happen over the winter. I cleaned up this front suspension and steering last night, and then painted the brake calipers a nice glossy black, just to keep them from getting corroded and things like that. And plus it was raining yesterday, so I had nothing else to do. Lift the trunk lid, and as you can see, the trunk lid inside was painted to match the outside, as well as the door jambs. Door jambs were painted to match. So we didn't cut any corners there. And then, of course, under the hood, that was also painted as well. So let me prop the hood real quick. So the under the hood or the bonnet, as well as the jambs, all the way around, those were all painted, as well as that area up there at the nose. The only place that didn't get paint was basically the firewall here. That's all the original paint. And then, of course, buried down below. We did not remove the engine to repaint the car. It's not that drastic. But the engine, of course, needed a really good thorough cleaning after it came back, because it was covered in 2 months worth of dust and dirt and overspray from cars and, you know, sanding and all that. So this needed a good clean, so that got it. And then since getting it back, I painted the Alpha script just because I was bored one day. I've done a fluid change on it, as well as a mini tune-up, so it got new distributor cap, rotor, wires and plugs. Swapped the oil to the Valvoline synthetic race oil, which is a 2050, but it's a high zinc oil, and of course these old engines love high zinc oils. So if you haven't done that yet, that's something to consider, doing a high zinc oil. But otherwise, let's start her up so you guys can hear how she sounds. I would tell you it sounds like a sewing machine, but you guys can be the judge of yourselves. So, as you can see, it is a cold start, so I'm not cheating it. Cold start, good oil pressure, tach's running. There she is, just humming along. Probably something I'll do in the wintertime is I want to swap out the factory fan and do a electric fan. I have noticed when you're driving along, you do hear that fan quite a bit, and I would rather not. I'd rather just hear the engine and the exhaust and not the fan running. But otherwise, real good smooth running engine, no vibrations, no coughing or sputtering. Let me come around to the exhaust side. And that is not soot and stuff that's been blowing out of the exhaust. That's when I've been digging around and knocking oil and grime and stuff off the bottom of the car. It's just some leftovers. Yeah, but So that's it, basically. Everything works, everything runs, all the electronics are good. So, I mean, but yeah, it's been a great car for the 2 weeks we owned it prior to sending it in for paint, and the 3.5 weeks we've had it since it came back from paint and all that. It's been a fabulous car. We've had a lot of fun with it so far. Unfortunately, Seattle, we have not quite turned our weather into summer weather yet. It's sunny, but in the afternoon and in the mornings it's been cold and chilly. So on our Saturday morning drives when we go to Cars and Coffee, we definitely are we're more bundled up, and my wife is wearing a blanket around her and all that. But I wanted to show you guys this real quick. So this was something that's been really nice. So this is the original records that came with the car from the previous owner. You know, the original owner's manual. And then I've just got piles. I mean, this is probably 20 receipts stapled together there. All kinds of stuff. This is the original sales sheet. They purchased it for $9,600 back in the 80s. And then just tons of records going all the way back to the mid-late 80s, all the way up until as recent as the mid-2000s. The most recent service was an oil change, and a full service was right before they put it up for sale. But like I said, I mean, this goes... Anyone in the Seattle area would know Rally Round. They were a big Alfa shop in Seattle for a long, long time. And they had a lot of work done there. I mean, there's a couple of these sales receipts, which are, you know, $5,000-$6,000, where they would go in and, you know, rebuild transmission and rebuild the head. I mean, so they were very meticulous about the car. They took really good care of it, and it shows. The only thing they never spent a lot of money on was, of course, having it resprayed or repainted. But that is why I bought the car, was that mechanically I had records going back 30 years, and the only thing the car needed was a paint job. And I did not plan on painting it weeks after buying it. I had planned on enjoying it, but since weather in Seattle doesn't really get good until July, I figured there was enough time to get it, go through it mechanically, change a few things, but then get it in, get it painted, and then have it for the hot time of year. So we have it back, and it's ready for the hot part of summer. And like I said, the only things I'm planning on doing come wintertime is refurbishing the wheels, and then changing out that mechanical fan for an electric unit. Other than that, we're just going to drive it, enjoy it. It's been a great car. So that's the update so far on our little Spider. It's been great. It's been a real joy. Very easy to work on. Parts are, compared to the GTV6, parts are very easy to get, way more affordable. And it's a traditional layout engine. So you have your engine, transmission, drive shaft, differential. Very basic. I grew up working on cars like that. The GTV6, of course, being a transaxle car with a DD on rear end. A little goofy, but it's once you figure out the architecture, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, so if you have a Spider and you love Spiders, I can understand why, because having owned this for a little while, I love the car. If you're thinking about a Spider, they're great. They're a lot of fun. I would say if you're not very mechanical, buy the most expensive car you can afford. Don't get a fixer-upper, because you'll probably just frustrate yourself. But that's it. Yeah, so if you have any comments, questions, please shoot them my way. I'm more than happy to answer questions. If someone has one of these reflectors, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to pay shipping and whatever you want for the part. I would love to have one. But other than that, yeah, that's it. If you have anything you want to ask, feel free to do so, and I'll get back to you. Take it easy.